My name is Avery Monroe. I'm 31 years old. And last Christmas Eve, I learned that being too broke for Christmas can still somehow include champagne, a DJ, and a house full of people who knew exactly why I wasn't there. That morning, my father, Calvin Monroe, sent the message that canceled everything. No family dinner this year, no gifts, no gathering. Money was tight, bills were piling up, and everyone needed to be understanding. So I did what I had always done. I understood. I told myself not to make it about me. I warmed up leftovers in my apartment, put on an old holiday movie, and tried not to stare at the unopened gift sitting by my door, the one I had bought weeks earlier, because I still believed I was part of that family. Then, a little after 8, my phone lit up with a live stream notification from my younger sister, Sienna Monroe. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. The screen opened to music blasting through the living room I had helped pay to keep warm. Lights were everywhere. People were laughing, dancing, raising glasses, shouting Merry Christmas like nothing had been canceled at all. The camera spun across the room, and face after face appeared. Relatives, neighbors, friends, everyone smiling under the same roof I had been told was too broke to celebrate. My mother, Marla Monroe, was standing near the Christmas tree, laughing with a glass of champagne in her hand. Everyone was there except me. I didn't scream. I didn't comment. I just sat there with my fork in my hand while the food went cold, realizing the lie was not about money, it was about me. And the strangest part was, I still might have stayed silent if Calvin had not texted me the following morning, asking for $2,000 like I was not a daughter, not a person, just the emergency fund they kept forgetting had a heart. Before I tell you what I replied and why my phone had 48 missed calls by sunrise, tell me, what's the weather like where you are, and where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm because my phone buzzed against the nightstand, like it had something cruel to deliver. For 1 second, I let myself believe maybe it was an apology. Maybe someone had realized I had seen the live stream. Maybe someone had woken up with enough shame to say, Avery, we should have told you the truth. But when I picked up the phone, the message was from Calvin Monroe, and it was not an apology. It said, "Can you send the $2,000 for the mortgage gap today? Bank fee hits tomorrow." That was all. No Merry Christmas. No, are you okay? No explanation for why his house had been full of champagne, music, catered food, and people while I ate leftovers alone. Just a request for money, written like I was an automatic payment with a pulse. I sat on the edge of my bed and read it 3 times, not because I did not understand it, but because something inside me needed to watch the truth become undeniable. They had not forgotten me. They had chosen to exclude me, then remembered me the moment a bill came due. I opened my banking app with hands that were strangely calm. I expected anger, but what I felt was worse. I felt awake. There it was, lined up in neat little rows. Years of being useful disguised as being loved. $800 here for an overdue utility bill. $640 for Sienna's car lease because she said her brand deals were delayed. $2,000 for the mortgage gap in October. Another $1,200 when Calvin said property taxes had hit harder than expected. The family phone plan under my card. The grocery delivery account saved to my card. The streaming services. The insurance copay Marla said she would pay back and never mentioned again. I scrolled until the numbers stopped feeling like money and started feeling like years of my life. I thought about the Christmas tree in that live stream, the one tall enough to brush the ceiling. I thought about the DJ near the fireplace. I thought about Marla laughing beside it, dressed like a woman who had not told her daughter there would be no Christmas because they were too broke. I opened Calvin's message again. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. There were so many things I could have said. I could have asked why I was not invited. I could have sent screenshots. I could have begged him to explain why everyone else deserved warmth and music while I deserved silence. But begging had always been the trap. It gave them room to twist the story, to call me sensitive, dramatic, ungrateful, difficult. So I typed only one sentence: lose my number. I don't fund liars. I looked at it for a few seconds, then hit send before the old version of me could soften it. Then I blocked Calvin. I blocked Marla. I blocked Sienna. Not to be cruel, but because I knew that the second they had access to my voice, they would try to pull me back into the role they had assigned me, the responsible one, the understanding one, the one who paid quietly and apologized for needing respect. After that, I started making calls. First the bank. I canceled every recurring transfer connected to my family. The woman on the line asked me twice if I was sure, because some of the payments had been active for a long time. I said, "Yes, I am sure." Then I removed my card from the grocery delivery account. I canceled the extra phone lines. I changed passwords on my email, banking, Apple ID, Venmo, and every account where someone in that house might have saved access. I logged out every device. I turned on two-factor authentication. I froze the shared credit authorization Calvin had once convinced me was just for emergencies. One woman from the phone company paused and said, "I'm sorry. Family stuff around the holidays can be really hard." I almost laughed because hard felt too small. Hard was burning dinner or missing a flight. This was discovering that your family could afford a party, but not honesty. By the time I finished, the sky outside had gone dark blue. My coffee sat untouched on the counter. The unopened gift by the door suddenly looked embarrassing, like proof that I had misunderstood my own place in the family. I picked it up, carried it to the closet, and put it on the highest shelf where I would not have to see it. Then I created a folder on my phone called Evidence. Into it went the Livestream recording, screenshots of Sienna's story, Calvin's text, bank transfers, payment confirmations, and emails. I did not know yet what I would need it for. I only knew that people who lie loudly often depend on you having no proof. At 5:47 the next morning, my phone started buzzing again from numbers I did not recognize. By 6 a.m., there were 48 missed calls. One voicemail came through from Marla. Her voice was soft, shaky, almost convincing. "Avery, please, we can talk. There has been a misunderstanding. Just call me back." I listened to it once, then saved it. I did not call back, because for the first time in years, I understood something they should have understood long before me. A misunderstanding does not have a DJ. By noon, the panic had found new ways to reach me. The first message came through Facebook from an account I had not used in months. It was Marla, writing like a mother in a greeting card instead of a woman who had watched her daughter get erased from Christmas. "Honey, please do not make a permanent decision over one emotional night. Your father is under a lot of pressure. We all are." I stared at the words and felt nothing. Not because I was heartless, but because I had finally run out of energy to translate excuses into love. A few minutes later, Sienna posted an Instagram story. Black background, white text, dramatic little broken heart emoji. "Some people will ruin the holidays just to make themselves the victim." She did not say my name. She did not have to. Half the people who saw that story had been standing in the living room the night before, while she filmed the perfect family Christmas that apparently did not include me. I screenshotted it and dropped it into the evidence folder. Then came Aunt Valerie. I had not spoken to her in almost a year, but suddenly she had my number, which told me exactly how desperate my family had become. "Avery," she said when I answered out of curiosity, "I am very disappointed." I looked at the ceiling and almost smiled. Not hello, not are you okay? Just disappointment, delivered like a family heirloom. She told me Calvin and Marla were devastated. She told me Sienna had been crying all morning. She told me Christmas was stressful for everyone and I needed to stop punishing people. I let her speak before I asked one question. "Did they tell you I was told Christmas was canceled because they were too broke?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Well, your father said it was supposed to be small." I said, "There was a DJ, Aunt Valerie." Another pause. I added, "Did they tell you I have been paying part of their mortgage, Sienna's car lease, their phone bill, and their groceries for 3 years?" This time the silence was longer. Finally she said, "Even if that is true, family should not keep score." I said, "Funny. They kept my number when the bills were due. She told me I was being cold. I told her I was being accurate. Then I hung up." The rest of the day became a parade of half-truths. Calvin sent an email from his work account because his number was blocked. Subject line: "We need to be adults about this." The email said I had misunderstood the situation. It said the party had been last minute. It said people just dropped by. It said Sienna had gone live without thinking. It said they did not invite me because they assumed I would be tired from work. Every sentence depended on me forgetting what I had seen with my own eyes. People do not accidentally hire a DJ. They do not accidentally cater trays of food. They do not accidentally decorate the house from the entryway to the fireplace. And they definitely do not accidentally invite cousins, neighbors, friends, and Aunt Valerie, while forgetting the daughter paying the bills. I did not reply. Instead, I saved the email and added it to the folder. I was not planning revenge yet. I was planning protection. There is a difference. Revenge wants people to suffer. Protection wants them to stop reaching you with the knife. By evening, the practical fallout began. Sienna's car lease company sent a reminder because the card on file had failed. The phone provider sent an automated email saying 2 lines would be suspended if payment was not updated. A grocery delivery order tried to process and declined. The mortgage payment Calvin expected from me did not appear. Suddenly, the family that had been too broke to include me in Christmas had enough energy to contact me from every direction. Unknown numbers, no caller ID Facebook messages, emails, even a Venmo request from Sienna with a note that said, "Can we not be petty?" I stared at that one for a long time. Petty. That was what they called it when the person they used stopped volunteering to be used. I declined the request and blocked her there too. Around midnight, I received an alert from my bank. Suspicious login attempt blocked. My heart began to pound, not from fear exactly, but from the sick confirmation that they were not just asking anymore. Someone had tried to access my account using an old recovery email I had once used on Calvin's laptop when helping him reset his own password. I called the bank immediately. The fraud department confirmed the attempt had come from a familiar device location near Minnetonka, where my parents lived. The representative asked if I wanted to file a formal security note. I said yes. Then I asked her to lock everything down. New username, new password, new verification method, no shared recovery options, no recognized devices. When the call ended, I sat in my apartment with every light on. Being excluded hurt. Being lied to hurt. Being asked for money the next morning was disgusting. But trying to reach into my account after I said no told me exactly who I was dealing with. These were not confused people who made a mistake. These were desperate people who believed my boundaries were technical problems to work around. By sunrise, I had made a decision. I was going to drive to Minnetonka. Not to beg. Not to yell. Not to get an apology. I was going there to look them in the eye while I closed the last door they thought they still had into my life. The drive to Minnetonka usually took 25 minutes, but that morning it felt like I was traveling backward through every version of myself I had ever been in that family. The little girl who waited by the window for Calvin to come home from work. The teenager who learned not to complain because Marla said stress made her father short-tempered. The college student who sent money home because Sienna needed a dress for a dance. The grown woman who kept saying yes because no always seemed to cost more than money. Snow was packed along the curbs when I pulled onto their street. The house looked almost ridiculous in daylight. Christmas lights still blinked around the roofline. A wreath hung on the door. There were trash bags near the side gate. Boxes from catered food visible through the plastic. Empty champagne bottles clinking together when the wind pushed one bag sideways. It looked like the morning after a lie. I parked across the street and sat there for a minute, breathing slowly, making sure I was not about to walk in as the wounded daughter they knew how to manipulate. I needed to walk in as the woman who owned her own name, her own money, and her own silence. When I rang the bell, no one answered at first. Then I knocked. Hard. A few seconds later, Calvin opened the door. He looked smaller than I expected. Same man, same face, but without the confidence he wore when he was asking for help, like it was his right. "Avery," he said, relief flashing across his expression like he thought I had come to fix everything. "Thank God. We need to talk." I did not step inside. I said, Someone tried to access my bank account last night. His face changed. Not enough for a stranger to notice, but enough for me. A twitch near the eye. A quick inhale. I said, I am here to make sure every old email, device, password, and saved login connected to me is removed from this house. He looked behind him like he needed backup. Marla appeared in the hallway wearing a robe, her eyes red. Avery, sweetheart, this has gotten so out of hand. I said, do not sweetheart me, find the laptop. Calvin's jaw tightened. Nobody tried to steal from you, I said. I did not say steal. I said access. Interesting that your mind went there. Marla made a wounded little sound. Then Sienna came down the stairs in sweatpants, holding her phone like it was part of her hand. Are you serious right now? She said. You are showing up here like we are criminals? I looked at her. You went live in a house full of people after I was told Christmas was canceled. Her eyes rolled before she could stop herself. It was not about you. That sentence was almost funny. I said, exactly. That was the problem. Calvin stepped between us and tried to use the voice that had worked on me for years, low and firm, like authority could replace accountability. Avery, you are upset. Fine, but cutting off payments overnight? Canceling phone lines? Embarrassing your sister? Your mother has been crying since yesterday, I asked. Did she cry when she watched me get excluded? Nobody answered. I turned to Marla. Did you know I was not invited? Her lips parted. She looked at Calvin, then Sienna, then back at me. We thought it would be easier, she whispered. Easier for who? I asked. She did not answer, and she did not need to. Sienna jumped in because silence made her uncomfortable unless she was the one causing it. Dad said you would make things awkward. He said you always act like we owe you something. Calvin snapped. Sienna, stop. There it was. Not a family misunderstanding, a family discussion I had not been invited to, followed by a family decision to remove me from the celebration and keep me on the payroll. I nodded slowly. Thank you. For once, one of you told the truth. Calvin's face turned red. Do not twist this. I said. I am not twisting anything. I am done straightening out what you all keep bending. I asked for the laptop again. Calvin tried to argue, but Marla finally went into the den and came back with it. I watched him remove my email from saved passwords, delete the old recovery link, and sign out of every account where my name appeared. Then I asked for the tablet Sienna had once used to log into my streaming account. She groaned but brought it from the living room. I checked that too. The house was quiet except for the small clicks of keys and Sienna's dramatic breathing. Behind them, the living room still had decorations everywhere. Glitter on the floor, plastic cups under the coffee table, a silver banner on the mantel that said blessed. I stared at that word and almost laughed. When I was finished, I closed the laptop and slid it back across the table. Calvin said, So that is it? You are just going to abandon us? I looked at him for a long moment. No, I said. I am going to stop maintaining the illusion that you loved me while you used me. Marla started crying then, real tears or useful ones. I could not tell anymore. Sienna said, You are ruining everything. I picked up my bag. No, I stopped paying for everything you were already ruining. At the door, Sienna followed me. Avery, can we just have 5 minutes? I turned around. I gave you 3 years. You spent them. Then I walked out into the cold. Calvin called my name once from the porch, but I did not look back. For 2 days after that, nothing happened, and the silence felt so strange that I did not trust it. I went to work. I answered emails. I made coffee. I folded laundry. I did normal things with the careful movements of someone walking away from a car crash. Part of me expected guilt to arrive, because guilt had always been my family's most reliable messenger. But what came instead was clarity. I realized how many hours of my life had been spent waiting for the next request. A bill, a favor, a crisis, a family emergency that somehow became my responsibility before I even understood what had happened. Without those messages, my apartment felt bigger. My evenings felt longer. My own money felt unfamiliar in my account, like something I was allowed to keep. Then, on the 3rd day, The envelope appeared under my door. No stamp, which meant someone had come to my building and slid it there by hand. My stomach tightened when I saw Marla's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened. But evidence had become a habit, so I took a photo of the envelope before I touched it. Inside was a 4-page letter. She had written it carefully, the way she wrote thank you cards for people she wanted to impress. It began with Avery, my beautiful daughter, which was how I knew the performance had started before the first sentence ended. She wrote that Christmas had been complicated. She wrote that Calvin had been embarrassed about money. She wrote that Sienna had needed a happy night because her career was stressful and social media was part of her job. She wrote that they never intended to hurt me. Then halfway down the second page she wrote the sentence that made my chest go cold. We thought you were used to being the strong one. I read it again. Used to it. As if being left out was a muscle I had trained. As if loneliness became acceptable once everyone agreed I carried it well. I did not cry. I folded the letter, slid it back into the envelope, and placed it in the evidence folder drawer beside printed copies of the bank alerts. That evening, Aunt Valerie called again from a different number. I knew it was her because she sighed before saying hello. She told me Marla was devastated. She told me Calvin was not sleeping. She told me Sienna had lost followers because people were asking questions under her Christmas video. I said, "That sounds uncomfortable." She said, "Avery, do not be cruel." I said, "Cruel was telling me Christmas was canceled and then posting it online without me. Cruel was asking for $2,000 the next morning. Cruel was trying to access my account after I said no." Aunt Valerie lowered her voice. "Your father says that bank thing was a mistake." I asked, "Did the mistake know my recovery email?" She did not like that. She told me I was becoming bitter. I told her bitterness was what happened when people expected you to swallow poison politely. Then I hung up. A few hours later, Calvin left a voicemail. I only listened because I wanted to know which version of him had called. The sorry version or the angry version. It was the angry one. "Avery," he said, voice tight and controlled. "You have made your point. Your mother is crying. Your sister is humiliated. Valerie says people are talking. I hope you are proud of yourself." There was a pause, and when he spoke again, the mask was fully off. "You always needed to feel superior. Always acting like you were the only responsible person in the family. Well, congratulations. You finally got what you wanted. Everyone sees you." I saved the voicemail twice, once on my phone and once in the cloud. Because that message was the truth no apology letter could cover. He was not sorry I had been hurt. He was furious that I had stopped absorbing the consequences of his choices. The next morning, I logged onto Sienna's public page from a browser where I was not signed in. I did not search because I missed her. I searched because people like Sienna never suffer quietly. They decorate the damage and call it content. Her Christmas livestream had been removed, but the internet had already done what the internet does. Someone had clipped a few seconds of it. The part where she shouted, "Christmas with the people who actually showed up." Under the repost, someone had commented, "Wasn't her sister told the family was too broke to celebrate?" Another person wrote, "Imagine excluding the person paying your bills." I stared at that comment for a long time. I had not posted anything. I had not told my side publicly. Still, the truth had started crawling out through the cracks they created. That afternoon, Nora Bennett called me. Nora was an old college friend who had become a lawyer, the kind of person who spoke calmly even when explaining terrible things. I had sent her a short message asking for advice, not because I wanted to sue my family, but because I wanted to make sure they had no legal or financial path back into my life. She listened while I explained the payments, the shared accounts, the attempted login, the family pressure. When I finished, she said, "Avery, I need you to hear me clearly. You are not overreacting. What you are describing is financial exploitation wrapped in family language." I closed my eyes when she said it. Financial exploitation. Not helping. Not being dramatic. Not misunderstanding. Nora told me to gather everything, write a formal boundary letter, close any remaining shared access, and stop communicating except in writing. Then she said something I wrote down because I needed it. "Love does not require you to leave your wallet open." That night, I began building the spreadsheet. Every transfer, every payment, every subscription, every emergency I had been guilted into solving. The total climbed faster than I expected. By the time I finished, it was more than $42,000. I stared at the number until my eyes burned. That was not generosity anymore. That was a second life I had been funding while mine waited quietly in the corner. The next morning, I printed the spreadsheet because I needed to see the total on paper. $42,316, not including gifts, canceled plans, late-night calls, or the emotional work I had mistaken for loyalty. Nora helped me draft the letter. It was not cruel, and that mattered to me. I wanted every word clean enough to stand in daylight. To Calvin Monroe, Marla Monroe, and Sienna Monroe, it began. This letter confirms that I will no longer provide financial support, account access, emergency transfers, bill payments, or payment methods for any household, vehicle, subscription, loan, service, or personal expense connected to you. Attached is a summary of financial support provided over the last 3 years. I am not requesting repayment at this time. This document serves as a final record and a formal end to all financial involvement. Do not contact me for money. Do not attempt to access my accounts. Do not send third parties to pressure me. Any further attempt to use my personal information, saved passwords, or payment methods will be documented. Please communicate only in writing and only if you are taking full responsibility without requests, accusations, or conditions. I signed it with my full name, Avery Monroe. Not daughter, not sister, not family emergency fund. Then I mailed 3 copies by certified mail, 1 to each of them. I sent a 4th copy to Aunt Valerie because she had chosen to help pressure me. The response came in pieces, like a house cracking before it falls. First, the phone lines shut down. Sienna posted from a friend's account that she was taking a break because of toxic energy. Then the car lease company called her, not me, for the first time in years. She emailed me with no subject line. You could have warned me before destroying my transportation. I did not reply. A warning would have been telling your sister Christmas was canceled while preparing to film the party. Next came Calvin. His email was short, which meant panic had replaced performance. You have put us in an impossible position. We may lose the house. Please call your mother. I did not call. The house was not at risk because I stopped paying. It was at risk because Calvin had built a lifestyle on money he did not earn and gratitude he did not feel. A week later, the SUV disappeared from their driveway. Aunt Valerie sent one last message before I blocked her too. Your father had to sell his vehicle. I hope this makes you feel powerful. It did not make me feel powerful. It made me feel correct. Calvin loved that SUV because it proved something to the neighbors. Losing it hurt him where appearance mattered most. Marla's consequences were quieter, but maybe worse. She worked in the front office of a local elementary school, where gossip traveled faster than weather. A parent who followed Sienna's page asked if everything was okay with her daughters. Then another person asked why Avery had not been at Christmas. Marla, who had spent years presenting our family like a perfect holiday card, now had to smile through questions she could not answer without lying again. Sienna's fall was louder. She lost a bridal shower planning gig after the bride's sister saw the drama online and decided she did not want someone messy involved in a family event. Sienna posted a tearful video about betrayal and how the internet never knows the full story. People in the comments asked what the full story was. She deleted it in less than an hour. I watched none of this with joy. I had imagined revenge would feel like fire, but it felt more like distance, like watching a storm through a window after years of standing outside in it. 2 weeks after the certified letters arrived, Calvin and Marla put the house on the market. The listing called it a charming family home. The photos showed the same living room from the live stream, now cleaned and staged. With no DJ, no champagne, and no proof except in my memory. Sienna emailed again when the listing went up. You ruined our family. I broke my rule and replied one time. No. I stopped financing the version of it you performed online. Then I blocked her email too. The final message came from Marla through Nora. We understand your point now. We just wish you had spoken up sooner before it went this far. I almost wrote back with every time I had spoken, every time I said I was tired, every time I asked to be included. But people like Marla do not count your words until your silence costs them something. So I did not answer. Instead, I opened a new savings account with the same amount I used to send them every month. I named it Peace. It was the first account I had ever opened that no one else could drain. Spring came slowly that year, with dirty snow melting at the edges of parking lots, and sunlight returning like it was unsure whether it had been invited. By then, Calvin and Marla had moved into a smaller townhouse 20 minutes from the old neighborhood. I did not help them pack. I did not ask where they put the Christmas decorations. I did not drive past the new place. I heard through one final message from Nora that Calvin had agreed, in writing, not to contact me for financial help again. That sentence gave me more peace than any apology ever had. Sienna moved in with a roommate after the car situation became impossible, and her online presence changed almost overnight. Less champagne, fewer perfect family captions, more vague quotes about healing. I hoped she actually healed someday, but I no longer needed to be the lesson she learned from at my expense. Aunt Valerie stopped calling after she received the spreadsheet. I think numbers can do what emotions cannot. They make denial look expensive. As for me, I moved too, just to a brighter condo closer to downtown Minneapolis, with windows that caught the morning light, and a small second room I turned into an office. The first night there, I ordered Thai food, put a cheap lamp on the floor because my furniture had not arrived yet, and sat against the wall eating dinner from the container. No one called asking for money. No one accused me of abandoning them. No one needed me to fix a crisis they had created. The silence did not feel empty anymore. It felt like mine. I started therapy in March. At first, I kept trying to tell the story in a way that made me sound fair to everyone. My therapist finally asked, "Avery, what would happen if you told it without protecting them?" I could not answer. Protecting them had become so automatic that truth felt rude. But week by week, I learned to name things properly. Being useful is not the same as being loved. Being strong is not permission for others to neglect you. Family can be real and still be unsafe. Forgiveness is not a payment plan. I also began hosting small online workshops about basic personal finance for young women who felt responsible for rescuing everyone around them. I did not tell my whole story, but it lived behind every lesson. How to separate generosity from guilt. How to build an emergency fund that is actually for you. How to remove saved cards from shared accounts. How to say, "I cannot afford that," without giving a courtroom defense. How to understand that no is a complete sentence, even when the person hearing it raised you. Those workshops became the first good thing that grew from everything that happened. The money I used to send Calvin, Marla, and Sienna now went towards savings, therapy, better groceries, and a pottery class on Saturdays, where nobody knew me as the dependable one. I was just Avery, the woman whose mugs came out slightly crooked but who laughed when they did. That summer, I ran into a cousin at a farmer's market. She looked nervous, like I might explode in public. I did not. She said, "I just want you to know, a lot of us did not know the whole story." I said, "I know." She apologized for being at the party. I thanked her, and meant it. Then she said something that stayed with me. "I think they thought you would always come back because you always had." That was the whole story. They did not believe I had a limit because I had trained them not to see one. I trained them with every yes I gave when I wanted to say no. Every payment I made while telling myself it was just this once. Every holiday I swallowed disappointment because keeping peace felt easier than asking for respect. That was the educational truth I wish someone had taught me earlier. Love without boundaries does not become deeper. It becomes easier to exploit. Helping family can be beautiful, but only when help is freely given, honestly received, and never demanded as proof of loyalty. When people only remember your name when bills are due, they are not honoring your heart. They are using your access. And when you finally close that access, you are not destroying the family. You are revealing what was already broken. The next Christmas, I bought a small tree for my condo. Not huge, not the kind people post online to prove they are happy. Just a simple tree with warm lights and ornaments I picked myself. I made dinner, invited 2 friends over, and left my phone in the other room. Later that night, I saw a missed call from an unknown number. No voicemail, no text. For a moment, the old reflex moved in me. The need to know, the need to fix, the need to be available. Then I looked at my little tree, my clean kitchen, my quiet home, and I let the feeling pass. I did not call back. I did not investigate. I did not open a door just because someone knocked from the other side. Christmas had not been canceled after all. It had simply been returned to the person who had spent too many years paying for everyone else's happiness while forgetting her own. Our team at Revenge Broken Trust is working hard to create meaningful, emotional, and well-crafted scripts that bring valuable lessons to every viewer. This story is completely fictional and created for educational purposes, with the goal of sharing useful messages about family, trust, boundaries, and self-respect. Which character did you like the most in this story, and why? Was it Avery, the woman who finally chose herself, or another character who made the story unforgettable?